We continue. Our party members are deprived of intimate relationships with one another. And they can only do so in matrimony in order to produce future party members. Why does the party avoid people to come together? Because they understand that when people have a close relationship to one another, they become loyal to one another. And so sex is used as one of the elements to stifle people through the anti-sex league, which discourages young women in the party from having sexual relationship. Yet it exists. And these women are also forbidden to look beautiful or feminine because it can attract men to them. Now, in this background of totalitarianism, you can now understand from the events that take place in the text. And the first thing we note is that Winston comes back home, and the only thing that keeps him company is his diary, where he writes his inner thoughts. And on one of the things is written, "Down with Big Brother." And he knows it's a grievous crime that he has just committed. And even when Mrs. Parson comes to knock at the door, he knows that his time is up. Fortunately, Mrs. Parson wants him to help her with the repairs of her sink. But what is more interesting is the reaction of the Parson children. They are so agitated, and even their own mother is afraid of her own children. In Winston's mind, he has already become rebellious, and he thinks that doing things that go contrary to the party is his own way of rebellion, because he has realized that no one can stand and bring down the party and the dictatorial regime. He counts on the pros, yet the pros are not interested in politics. And even the party itself knows that the pros are not interested in politics. And that is why they have all the liberties which are refused to both inner and outer party members. Unfortunately, even though inner and outer party members have some restriction, they still do the things that they are forbidden from. For example, Julia makes us to understand that she has been having sex with senior inner party official at the age of 16. And later on, she will fall in love with Winston. And they will become partners in crime because of their rebellion against Big Brother and the party. Winston's life is miserable, like that of many of those who work for the party, because even they are monitored. Even though the party seems to claim that life has been, they have ameliorated life of their citizens, it's a lie. Victory Mansion is a shambles. The lifters are out of order. Sometimes there is no light in London for a long time in Airstrip 1. Everything that the people consume is of cheap quality. The luxurious quality food and drink are a prerogative to the inner party member. We now understand why the inner party members can support anything that has to do with Big Brother. Even though Winston decides to fall in love with Julia, it is really a hard nut to crack. Because in order for Julia to hand him the note, "I love you," she has to feign falling. And even for Winston to read the note, he must look for where he will not be seen by the telescreen. And they decide to go to Victory Square, where there will be many people. And these people will shut them from the screens. And that is how she's able to express her love for him. Though he's afraid at the beginning, she wins his confidence. And although they have love in the bush, in the wood, which expresses a form of liberty, which he wants, he continues to dream. He dreams of golden country, a place where there's liberty, where he sees this woman, this woman, this young girl who runs naked to him. That's some form of freedom. And in order to have enough of each other, they have to rent at the middle of the city itself, on top of Mr. Charrington's antiquity shop. And they are able to empty their hearts to one another. One other important thing, apart from the monitoring, is the fact that O'Brien gives the impression that he is thinking in the same way as Winston, thereby using a bait to bring him in. And do not forget that he has been monitoring him. And when he invites him to his house, O'Brien is surprised to understand that he lives in a luxurious apartment. He has very expensive wine. And he, Mr. O'Brien, decides to put him in a tight corner by asking him very dangerous questions during the supposed initiation rites. Questions like, can you plant a bomb? Can you spread diseases? Can you throw acid? This is already an indication. If they say yes, it's already an indication that they are dangerous enemies and enemies of the state. Of course, because they naively believe in O'Brien because of the manipulation. And their answer is positive. And that's the end of it. And they hand it. The book, which is supposed to have been written by Goldstein for the Brotherhood. But it turns out, because he had been dreaming about O'Brien, who had in the dream had told, we will meet in the place where there is no darkness. And Winston had lived all his time waiting for this moment where he will go to a place where there's no darkness, because he believes that it's a better place than Oceania. But, ironically, the place without darkness is no other place but the ministry of love. The most dreaded ministry in Oceania. He is not just tortured psychologically, physically. First, to break his resolve and his loyalty to Julia. And secondly, to re-educate him and reorientate his loyalty to the party and Big Brother, which finally happens. But he is already a disgraced party official, like the others. Aronson, who sit at the Chestnut Tree Cafe, waiting for the moment when they will be vaporized. We also realize that unlike the other communist countries that used to, in Oceania, when an enemy, a supposed enemy, is vaporized, he is completely eroded or eradicated from the collective memory of the people. Nothing is said of him. Signed, Ampelford. And at the end of it all, Winston comes to realize that it is difficult for an individual to break down a well-organized totalitarian regime like that of Oceania. The most shocking is the fact that O'Brien confesses that part of the book, some of the chapters of the books were written by him, therefore canceling the fact that the book was written by Emmanuel Goldstein. We can now conclude that Goldstein does not even exist. Goldstein is an imaginary enemy who is used whenever the party wants to eliminate some unwanted element. They will brandish them as enemies of the state. And because they don't want insurrection, they use this as a means to cajole the people to understand that their death is merited. And therefore, we can therefore conclude that O'Brien incarnates, or is one of those who incarnates the power that is in Big Brother. He could even be one of the big fours that actually incarnate the power of Big Brother and rule Oceania. I want you to see things in this light. And therefore, all other ideas that are raised will come to the fact that The thought police is very powerful. The party manipulates its people through psychological manipulation. The party falsifies documents. Everything in Oceania is about Big Brother. The party forbids people even from their emotional expressions, suppresses them because they want that their loyalty should be to Big Brother. And above all, no one can win a war or can struggle and survive and break down such a well-oiled machine of monitoring that is incarnated by totalitarianism. We'll see later on in the questions that will come later on. Thank you for listening.